Hello and good week. Baruch Hashem, Rosh Hashanah. Amazing stuff. Yaakov Avinu has his work cut out for him, right? To say the least. You know, in Pashas Vayetze, it says that Kadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to him in the dream. The famous dream of the ladder. And he promised him that he will guard him. We spoke about it. He promised him that he's going to guard him. He's going to protect him. In the morning, it says Yaakov Avinu was filled with dread. So ordinarily, what we explain is the dread was, you know, how awesome if this particular place where I'm at, as we said, it's also another part of the dread is Shlomo promised him protection. His body not, promise protection to Avraham Avinu, not promise protection to Yitzchak either. Yet we saw that each one has his own nisyonis. Pirkei Avos is 10 nisyonis of Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was filled with dread because none of his forefathers were promised protection. Comes to show you that he understood that he's promised protection. He needs the protection. But there's a reason for fear. So, without Hashem, all these things we will talk about in this new Maisa that we're learning. That's Hashem. Today we are learning the Maisa, the different ways of calling it. This translation calls it the clever one and the simple one. Rabbi Kaplan calls it the wise man and the simpleton. This is all of them are, but this is it's a seminal story. In other words, this particular story lays down supposedly a very accessible paradigm according to which we're supposed to live our lives. All the mices, there's a lot of things that we need to learn from. Again, accessible to, and as much as we can. Obviously, there are more secrets to this one than meets the eye. But on the face of it, this is one of the less opaque stories of Rabbi Nachman. And the story starts as follows. Once upon a time, there were two wealthy homeowners in a single city who had big houses. They had two sons. Meaning each one of them had one son. Learned together in the same school. And of these two sons, one was intelligent and the other was simple. Not that he was stupid, rather his intellect was plain, simple and plain. And these two sons loved each other very much, even though one was clever and the other was simple, with a plain mind. Still, they loved each other very much. Just it is said, hold on just one second. So we're talking about two landowners, people that are wealthy. And they had houses. Each one had a son. The basic premise that the story starts with is what does it mean that a person is a well-to-do, a wealthy landowner that has a house? The answer is that when a person has expanded consciousness, when a person enjoys what we call moichin de gadlus, and the emuna is surrounded with emuna, it's called that he has a house. Remember, Rabbeinu says that, Avraham Avinu has instituted the tefillah of Shachris. And Yitzchak has instituted the tefillah of Mincha. And Yaakov Avinu instituted the tefillah of Maariv. There's a very known chiluk, and they say Avraham Avinu instituted the tefillah of daylight. When things are clear. Avraham Avinu is called the Rosh L'Ma'aminim, is the head of all believers. When a person has a munah, everything is peachy. And the Gemara says there's another difference between Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov. Avram, it says that the distinction is that Avram called Kadosh Baruch Hu, he says, Ahar, the Emunah was a mountain. And Yitzchak, and he says, the Gemara wants to say, what is the distinction of Yaakov Avinu? So it's not like Avram that called him a mountain. And it is said in the Nisoyan of the Akedah, that Avram says, Bahar Hashem Yirah, in the mountain Hashem will be seen. And not like Yitzchak that called him a field. It says when Rivka came, Yitzchak Lasuach Basada, Yitzchak went to make his Beidadus, he went to daven Mincha. He instituted the time of Mincha. And it says, Ela ki Yaakov, however, like Yaakov, Shekroi Bais, call him a house, a home. The difference between them, just 1 second. The difference between them is that Avraham Avinu talks about, brings out the emunah in the time when the light is out. We would like to believe that when the light is out, I mean, duh, obviously you'll have a moon, but it's not so simple as we'll learn in this story. On the other hand, Yitzchak is considered a tefillah when judgments are falling. The day is passing. The evening comes. Time of Mincha is known as a time of judgments. That's like the in between. Yitzchak is a middle of Gvura. We said already once before that people misunderstand the meaning of Gvura vis-a-vis Yitzchak Avinu. We understand what is Gvura, what is might. Might means that if you dare cross me, no one is nice guy. But with Yitzchak, we find that it's exactly the opposite. When the shepherds of the Pelishtim argue with the shepherds of Avraham Avinu, so they argue back. They argue about it. That when Avimelech comes to Avraham Avinu, to sign a treaty between them, Avraham Avinu says, "Okay, see these 7 sheep. That's going to be the testimony that I'm the one who dug this well. The other ones, no more hanky-panky." Well, Yitzchak is different. Yitzchak digs wells, and the shepherds of Gerar, argue, and they say, we own the water. That was, they don't dispute the fact that Yitzchak's people dug the well. Like a guy, no, it doesn't matter. You dug, fine, yeah, but it's ours. Whatever it is you see here belongs to us. What does Yitzchak do? He doesn't argue. He says he moved away from there. Another place, they argue about that, they dug, argue. Yitzchak moves another place. It just gives a certain name, a name that you remember. It's your name Esek because they grappled with him. Sitna because there was hatred there, and the third one they didn't argue. It's called Zerchayv. It's fine. We see that at all times when Rivka and Yaakov arrange it so that Yaakov Avinu gets the bracha instead of Esav, you would expect, Yitzchak Avinu to come up and say, like, excuse me, you want to tell me that I don't know what I'm doing? I wanted to give the bracha to whoever I want to give the bracha, and how dare you, come in between and doing all these, play acting and wearing the sheepskin, the goat skins, and deceiving me. Nothing. Yitzchak is not saying a thing, not saying a word. Allah B'Fakert is blessing Yaakov again. And next week's parsha, this coming week, it's Parshas Vayeshev, and the whole fiasco with the Shvatim selling Yosef. And we find an amazing thing about Yitzchak. That Maisa, the selling of Yosef, occurred 12 years before the passing of Yitzchak. Yaakov Avinu was filled with the agony of mourning, and therefore the Shekhinah left him. So he did not know that Yosef is still alive. Yitzchak, however, knew. Yitzchak knew that Yosef was alive. And it says over there, Vayevk Oisa Oviv, and his father cried with him. Rashi says an astonishing thing. He says that Yitzchak came, and when he came to Yaakov Avinu, he cried because of the suffering of Yaakov. But he did not cry over Yosef because he knew Yosef was alive. Well, if you know that Yosef is alive, why don't you say something? Rashi says an astonishing thing. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't tell him, so I should tell him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want to tell him, all these places we find that the trait of Gvura of Yitzchak, the might of Yitzchak, does not manifest itself with acting decisively and dominatingly to others. He's being dominated. He's dominating himself. He holds himself back. They want to take, to argue about the wells. He's being pushed away. Rivka, Yaakov, whatever it is, that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it, being pushed away. Yaakov, his son, is crying over Yosef, and he knows that Yosef is alive. He doesn't say anything. Why? That's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it. The essence of might, of Gvura, of Yitzchak is the fact that he is in control of himself. And then we say, not like Yitzchak called him a field, but Yaakov Shekro Bais. He was talking about the two landowners that had homes, big homes. The Indian of Bais is a euphemism for Emunah. When Avram Avinu had full Emunah, Yitzchak Avinu obviously had complete Emunah, as Yaakov Avinu, complete Emunah. The only difference between the three is in the degree that they were able to reveal the Emunah to the rest of humanity. Avram Avinu revealed the Emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Bechina of a mountain. Now, many people, probably maybe all the people that travel to Japan, they take a look at Mount Fuji, right? And the people that travel to Nepal, Tibet, try to gaze on Mount Everest, right? Anybody goes to Switzerland, they try to take a look at the Matterhorn, a very peculiar looking mountain. Maybe look at the Mont Blanc. Awesome sights. Okay, but once you saw Mount Fuji or the Everest, or the Matterhorn, or any other, tremendous mountain, whatever. Okay, what now? I mean, in other words, the emunah, when it is bechina of a mountain, is like a once in a lifetime kind of phenomenon. Wow. Until Avram Avinu, I mean, I'm not talking about Shem and Ever and, various individuals, that kept the emunah in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, from Adam Arishon. Humanity, by and large, no longer recognized Kadosh Baruch Hu. They're all into all kinds of different, as this particular story of the wise man and the simpleton, or the clever one and the simple one, what do you want to call it? That's the thing, that they started being so clever, they started being so sophisticated, that everybody became an Avodah Zarah. Avram Avinu was not the first believer in Hashem. Shem and Ever were still alive. But it was the first one to let other people know about it. You should know there's Hashem. When Sarah Amina passes away, Avram Avinu says, come to the Hittites, Bnei Ches, wants to buy a grave. What do they say? Nesi Elokim ata b'sechenu. You're the president of Hashem. You're the exalted of Hashem. You're the one. Nevertheless, when Yitzchak and Rivka, when Esav takes a wife from the Hittites, Rivka says to Yitzchak, if Yaakov takes one of the daughters of the Hittites, he says, I'd rather not be alive, she says. In other words, yes, the recognition that Avram Avinu has brought to the world of the presence of Hashem was definite. Hittite said, Nesi Elokim ata b'sechenu. But nevertheless, it was like a mountain. Wow, you admire a mountain, but it doesn't go deep into your life. Yitzchak Avinu has managed to bring the emunah lower down and to the level of field. Now they call it not just a mountain, a field. The difference between a mountain and a field is a mountain, as we said, it's a phenomenon. You buy postcards, the Opera Ski, whatever it is, in the souvenir shop, you get a postcard of the Mont Blanc, of the, Matterhorn, whatever it is, and you send it, says, I have been to the Mont Blanc, it is amazing, and the sun is great, we're having a great time, love, whatever. It's once in a field is already something that is part and parcel of the reality of people's lives on a daily basis. A field is something that you till the field, right? You work the field. This is what you do. Which means now the connection between the believer in HaKadosh Baruch Hu is much more immediate. Until now, it was an idea. Do you believe in Hashem? Yeah, sure, good. What has it got to do with your life? Nothing. But Yitzchak Avinu brought it down to a point that, like a field, what is a field? A field, you need to go out and work. Why? Because you need to eat. In other words, it's interrelationship where you realize that there is a relationship that's going on between you and Hashem, and you need Hashem. Hashem is the one that gives you. Hashem gives you refuah b'zat Hashem. Hashem is the one that gives you parnasa. Hashem gives you shalom bayis. Hashem gives you whatever it is you're looking for. And you got to work it. You got to work it to feel. It's not going to grow on its own. You're going to go. You have to plow, and you have to sow, and you have to you have to reap, and you have to do all these things you need to do. You need to work it. Emunah is something you need to work. But nevertheless, there's a difference between the emunah that Yitzchak was able to impart to the people of his generation, which is a level of field, and the emunah that Yaakov Avinu was able to impart, was a b'chinas bayis. It's a house, and that is, the field is something that you use in order to live. What happens if you're rich? What happens if it's snowing? You don't go to the field. In other words, the relationship, the ashkafa, and if a field is that you need a Kodesh Baruch Hu, everything comes from him. You realize it. It's a great madrega, and you go ahead and you do it. You're a responsible fellow, and you go ahead and you follow, and you go ahead and you do what you need to do. Nevertheless, it is need dependent. You need now. You need. It is said, a person should always pray that he should not become sick. Because once a person is sick, Mishnah says, bring a merit and get it, and get out of it. He says, a person should always daven, he should not get sick. How many of us, while things are going well, actually daven that we should not get sick? Well, Hashem, I feel fine, so. But even that, in other words, it's a need. It's a need to know basis. It's a need to employ basis. But even then, even if you remember to daven the Kodesh Baruch Hu for every single day, it's still an emunah b'chinas sadeh, a field. Beinu says that bais is a house. That's where you live. I mean, when there's a storm outside, or where you're going to go? You're going to go home. You're going to go to the house. You're going to close the door. When there's danger, you live in your house. A house is your very being. A field is something that you utilize. A home is that's where you live. It's your life. The emunah of Yaakov Avinu, the emunah of the b'chinas bayis that the landowners represent, is an emunah. Specifically now, when there's, in the very beginning of the story, that we're talking about moichin the gadlus, expanding consciousness, things are clear. The emunah is Baruch Hashem strong, and is basic, and is solid. It's a home. It's a castle. It's a fortress. Because when a person is surrounded with emunah, It's a euphemism that Rabbeinu uses many times. From a pasuk emunos chassid yosecha, that the emuna is a circle. The emuna is around you. He says schol schol, around and around is the emuna. Emuna is something that envelops you. It's a cocoon. It's a home. You live inside the emuna. That's the emuna of Yaakov Avinu. It's not just something that I do because you go to work because you need parnasa. You serve Hashem because you need health, or you need parnasa, you need whatever it is, which is great, is amazing. But the ultimate, the apex, is that emuna is where you live. It's your home. And then these two landowners have two sons. One of them is intelligent, or as Rabbeinu calls it, a bar das, and the other one is a tam, simpleton. When he says, he says it's not stupid. It's just a tam. It's just twistic. Now Rabbeinu doesn't call him. Later on, you'll see that the clever one, Rabbeinu calls him the Chacham V'Tam. That's the name of the story. The Chacham V'Tam, the wise one, and the innocent. That's the name of the story. Right now, Rabbeinu doesn't call him a Chacham. He calls him a Bar Das. He's clever. And the Tam, Rabbeinu stresses the fact that he's not stupid, just optimistic. When things are going well, when the houses are where they're supposed to be, the parents, the two fathers, which means a lot of the chokhmah is shining there, things are clear. The chacham and the tam, the bar das and the simpleton love each other very much. Even though one is clever and the other one is simple. Because when things are going well, a person who is a bar das, who's clever, has an akud of tmimus in him. He realizes there are certain times, certain points in life where you need tmimus. Things are not always, things are not always glittering. And the light is not always on. There are certain times where you need, just to be tmimistic, just to be straight. Where being able to figure things out does not get you anywhere. So we realize there's a need for tmimus. The same way is the tam. The tam understands that sometimes there's a need for the ability to calculate and figure things out. The tam understands that by and large, the thing that you need to do is you need to do what the Baruch Hu wants you to do and just go ahead and do it, and that's it. But sometimes you're not sure what the Baruch Hu wants you to do. You need someone clever. You need cleverness to be able to figure out what does Hashem want from you. So, as we'll learn later on in the story, that ultimately the Tam gets to a situation where he has, all the intelligence that is needed. But in the very beginning, before the crisis, before the Shviras HaKelim, before things, fall apart, as it were, that the tmimus and the chokhmah and the das They live together. They love one another. They realize that each one has his own place. We all pass through this gate in our lives, up to the age, each one different age, up to the age, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know. We said it many times, that everything is basically peachy with the world, just like when you're happy, you laugh and you dance and you sing, and when you're sad, you cry, and whatever it is, you throw a tantrum. It's normal, You just who you are, and you want what you want, and that's it. It's just at a certain point in time, suddenly, comes the point of breakage, of shvira sakelim, when a child really, suddenly figures out that who he is, as is not good enough. At that point in time, children take different tacks on dealing with this crisis. Some freeze, some fight back, but mostly what they do is we develop an alter ego, a mask, a public persona, such as which we think that will be accepted readily by the world. We could be wise, or we can be bullying, or aggressive, or whatever it is, or funny, making everybody laugh, whatever it is. It's not us. It's not who we are. This is the adjustments that we're starting to make in order to, quote unquote, make it in the world. This is basically what the story is about the two kinds of way of looking at things. The simplicity versus sophistication. The difference between us and tzaddikim, you should know. All the tzaddikim went through whatever it is that you and I went through. The difference is that they had within them this staklus that if this is the way things are, that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it. And when you look at things from that point of view, your house is always with you, as we will see later on. It's when you're saying, okay, this is not working. This is all messed up. Okay, so I really have to start turning some wheels, doing some changes, rearranging the furniture, putting on some facade, that will help me get through. This is when things get complicated, and more than that, they get out of hand. Not just from the outside, but from the inside. And not just from the inside, but also from the outside. So, B'ezrat Hashem, with this, we will conclude the first study of the Ma'aseh Mechocham V'Tam, the Sophisticate and the Simpleton, as Rabbi Kaplan called it, or the clever one and the simple one, as this particular transition calls it. And B'ezrat Hashem, we will continue with this Ma'aseh, hopefully Bezrat Hashem next Monday night at 8 o'clock. Again, a reminder, Wednesday, for those who are into that sort of thing, we have Likutei Moharan Terech Beis. Again, a Zoom share. Thursday, again, for all those who are partial to that kind of way, we have a share in Beis Medrash of Breslov, 8 o'clock, Yitzhak Hashem, on Lachish, Nachal Lachish, 8 o'clock. Bezrat Hashem, both shiurim will be available on Zoom. And of course, there's the Motzei Shabbos shir, famous Sichas Aran, for Baal Shem Tov, whatever it is. Baruch Hashem, we're living a good life, aren't we? Baruch Hashem. Yeah, so let's just